What's up, everybody?
Hi, everybody.
This is a little bit of a first time for both of us.
We're not streaming.
Yeah, we're not streaming, but we are chatting. So over the weekend,
The fuck
a
was
little
that?
movie came out.
Small flick, an
It is a
indie
small
film.
movie. Yeah,
Low
heading
budget.
heading north of $250 million at the box office over the weekend. So the wait is over. We have officially got Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes. We went and saw it Friday in the theaters. It was quite the experience, and
Yeah.
we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. So today we're going to be talking about the movie in general, our feelings, and just to let you know, there will be spoilers. Lots of spoilers. The whole thing is one big spoiler. Do not watch it.
Yeah,
If
this
you
is
haven't seen
as
the movie.
spoiler free as the video is going to be right now.
Yeah.
Spoiler warnings from this point on. We're going all in.
Yeah.
Spoiler,
we're not
spoiler,
holding
spoiler,
back.
spoiler.
That's why we're not streaming.
Yeah. So let's just fucking get into it.
into it,
Spider-Man:
yeah.
No Way Home was directed by John Watts, who directed the other in the MCU Spider-Man franchise. It was written by Chris McKenna and Eric Sommers. It's a Columbia Pictures, or Sony, and Marvel Studios joint production. Executive producers are Kevin Feige, Amy Pascal. The music is done by, I wish I knew how to say his name properly. The music is by Michael Giacchino. I think Giacchino, who has done everything from the MCU Spider-Man franchise to the Incredibles franchise to the Star Trek franchise. He did Rogue One. He's doing the Batman. He's done a ton of video games. Just a very interesting fellow. And he did the Doctor Strange movie. So here's the exciting part. We're going to get right into the cast of this behemoth of a movie. So, of course, there's Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, Zendaya as Michelle Jones Watson. We'll get into that in a little bit. Jacob Batalon as Ned. Then we have returning Alfred Molina as Dr. Otto Octavius, or Dr. Octopus. Willem Dafoe returning as Norman Osborn Green Goblin. Jamie Foxx as Electro. Rhys Ifans as Dr. Kirk Connors in The Lizard. Thomas Hayden Church as Flint Marko the Sandman. J.K. Simmons returning as J. Jonah Jameson. Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. And of course, we saw the return of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire reprising their roles as Peter Parker from their respective Spider-Man films.
Yes.
Yeah. So this movie is just massive in scale. Before we get into our thoughts, I just want to give a brief rundown of the plot. So the movie picks up directly where Far From Home left off. You know, J. Jonah Jameson has revealed that Peter Parker is indeed Spider-Man, thanks to some doctored footage by Mysterio and his team. And seeing how the reveal has affected his loved ones, Peter goes to Doctor Strange in an effort to make the world forget that he was ever Spider-Man. But then he decides there's a few exceptions, which ultimately messes up the spell. And when the spell goes sideways, visitors from other universes start coming into our main MCU timeline. And Peter and Doctor Strange then have to round them up and send them back to their respective universes. So yeah, a lot going on in this movie. I just want to talk a little bit about our thoughts, our initial impressions. If you want to take it away there, Bean.
So, yeah, I mean, going into it, emotionally, I knew something big was going to happen because it's the final in a trilogy.
Right.
So I figured there was going to be something big and sad happening.
Right.
But there was a lot more big than I anticipated.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of knew going into it that we would see other Spider-Men.
Right.
I wasn't 100% certain that we would see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man. Everything was so secretive and well wrapped up for the most part.
Yeah.
But there's always that chance that it wasn't going to be them that came back. So that was like a super big moment, of course. But there were other things throughout that surprised me still. Like, I figured that was coming, but there were some things that I couldn't have predicted. And also, I was telling John this because of how big this opening weekend was, and because we got to see it when we did. We saw it on Friday at noon.
Right.
Typically, when we see movies at that time, it is dead. That's why we're seeing them at that time. The theater was popping as I've seen during COVID times.
Right.
And it felt like watching a movie in a theater.
Yeah.
For everything else that we've seen so far this year, as theaters have started to like reopen and it's been safer to go out and about, it's still kind of muted because there just aren't as many people in the theater. And also, I mean, we had Shang-Chi and the Eternals, which were like big action-packed Marvel movies, but we didn't have something as hard-hitting and that had so many implications for the greater MCU from here on out as Spider-Man. So to hear people like laughing and crying and cheering when people show up on screen, and one guy was snoring the entire time because he did fall asleep.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
But to be back in a theater like that again, it's part of what I, as someone who doesn't like movie theaters or crowds or of a lot of people, that's like the one part that I truly appreciate about going to the movies. It's just for 1 second, everyone's just cheering for the same thing.
Yeah.
So that felt super, super nice. And I think this was definitely a good kind of return to normalcy movie, even though maybe not so much now.
Right.
But it was just, it was more amazing than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It really was quite an amazing feat. And this, you were saying, and I think, how I would kind of phrase it is that this is really like the first big like event movie, in a long time. And it's definitely the first movie to open over $100 million at the box office opening weekend domestic since 2019. So I think that's when Avengers Endgame came out and has the third highest opening of all time. This is definitely an events movie, for many reasons. And, it was really, really cool just to kind of, because I think the last time I experienced that level of just like audience, just engagement, was, I think for me, was in Infinity War, because I went opening night to Infinity War, and I mean, that was a little more somber because, people were like gasping and crying at the same shit. Whereas there was a lot of cheers and like celebratory moments that were really, really cool. So a couple things that I had written down before this movie, and I wrote this in a non-spoiler tweet that I did after we saw it. This movie is very emotional and it's very epic. It's very like grand in scale. But what I really loved is that it maintained that same humor that was established in the first two movies. Because even in the trailers, like, and with all the things that were said about this movie, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is a very emotionally driven Spider-Man movie." So it would have been easy for them to make it really heavy,
or cheapen the heaviness with too much humor.
Right, and I feel like the humor was still natural, and it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was forced in at really any point. And we were watching. Of course, we talk about it all the time. We were watching a new Rockstars breakdown, and Eric Voss said something that resonated with me. This movie really, really is a love letter to the cinematic history of Spider-Man. Yeah. You have the obvious reason of bringing Tobey Maguire and you're bringing everyone back. But even more so than that, that could have been a cheap like parlor trick, just like, oh, they're all back and they're all doing. But no, it's like it all made sense. It all felt organic. Even the
fan servicey moments,
right? Of like, oh, they're all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
That felt natural. Them freaking out about Tobey Maguire's nasty organic webs, and they're all like, "What the fuck is that?" Or how they were talking about like what bad guys they fought. Like it was all very funny, and but it felt very sincere. I think what really struck me, I was thinking about this movie obviously for hours after we saw it. I'm still thinking about it now. Was that this movie did conclude this chapter of Spider-Man. But it also acted as a kind of, it doubled as like a new origin story for him. And we'll get into more of the story beats later, but just the way the movie ends, it's like the Spider-Man we knew is gone.
Right.
But the Spider-Man, so this is kind of a new Spider-Man that we're bound for at this point, and it's super exciting. So I figure we just, kind of start at the top and make our way. And
oh gosh, I don't remember most of it. You're gonna have to help me out.
It's so we got the notes for, and we can, and it doesn't have to be linear. We have to talk about every shot, and you can just talk about. We're gonna touch on some exciting stuff, some stuff we liked, and things like that.
Okay.
I want to point out though, there was some cheeky editing for the
oh yes, of course,
for the trailers that subverted expectations. Should have expected this because they do this all the time. But in the trailer, Wong told Doctor Strange not to perform the spell that Peter was asking for. But in the movie, we find that Wong, who is now the Sorcerer Supreme,
that's a big thing they put in there.
Yeah, gives them the green light to go ahead and do it.
What, if I remember correctly, it wasn't so much like a yeah, go for it. It was just kind of like do whatever, just be careful,
right?
Kind of a thing, because he was busy,
right,
being Sorcerer Supreme, which is insane because we've been operating under the assumption since the last Doctor Strange movie.
Well, since Endgame.
Since Endgame, that Stephen Strange was Sorcerer Supreme. Mm-hmm. When they mentioned the Sorcerer Supreme in WandaVision, we all assumed it was Doctor Strange. So, the reasoning being that Stephen was blipped for 5 years. So, I guess the seniority went to Wong on that one.
Yeah.
But that also makes sense because Wong had been there far longer than Stephen Strange. He's not going to cut the fucking line, Stephen. You know what? That is something he would do, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love that. Even if I assume that was always the plan, have Wong be Sorcerer Supreme.
Right.
But it makes, like you said, at the end, you mentioned that it makes him being in Shang-Chi make so much more sense.
Right.
Because he was the one that's talking to the Avengers and recruiting Shang-Chi. He was the one that went to that fighting place.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's looking over Abomination.
Yeah.
Like, all that kind of makes more sense now that you know that he's the one in charge.
Right.
Also, I just love the fact that Steven's not in charge because I think it drives him insane.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for being an overall good guy,
right?
Sometimes he's such an asshole.
Yeah, and that's just I've seen people complain about that as like a character trait of his, and I'm like,
if everyone was fun and cool all the time, it would be boring. You have to have people like Stephen Strange and honestly Tony Stark, who sometimes it's like, oh, you're just an asshole. You're just an entitled little ass.
All of these, characters that Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, like all these people that, we know, like all these characters we know and love, they were all written a certain way. And I mean, I know obviously the movies change from the comic, they deviate from the comics quite a bit, and that's fine. But like Tony Stark is meant to be an asshole. He starts off like Captain America. There's no room for growth.
Exactly.
And even Cap, he struggles with being that symbol of like optimism, because there's all that to say, like, yeah. So Doctor Strange being a little bit of a cocky ass, it's just a character
it's
trait.
A reflection of reality. That's what the characters are supposed to be. People who are overall good but are cocky assholes.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them any better or worse to be around. Well, it might make them a little bit worse.
Might be a little annoying, but
then when they grow out of that, you appreciate them all the more for it.
Exactly.
So anyway, sorry, not to get on a Doctor Strange thing, but
I also just love him as a character. So.
I also love him as a character. Doctor Strange, the movie, is thoroughly underrated. It is so good, and I'm glad. I figured we would because Doctor Strange was in it, and we saw a little bit of it in the trailers. But I'm glad we had such a big mirror dimension Doctor Strange, like reality bending type of fight sequence between the two of them, because that shit is amazing. It was the best part of Doctor Strange. It's why Doctor Strange is so good. And I'm glad that they brought more than just a piece of it
right.
into Far From Home. No Way Home.
And even that moment, that like set piece that they threw in the movie, it made Doctor Strange not being in so much of the movie makes sense.
Yeah.
So first off, like I'm very, very impressed that both Far From Home and No Way Home had these really, really epic moments of just like mind-bending VFX and I'm just shit you would expect to see in Doctor Strange, but not so much a Spider-Man movie.
Right.
But we got them both back to back.
Yeah.
That's really fucking cool. I love the mirror dimension scene.
Yeah.
And just how Peter solves it with the nerdiest possible explanation.
I'll fix it with math.
And
it worked.
He's real smart up here.
Real fucking big genius guy.
But yeah, so I was just surprised that they I shouldn't be surprised that Marvel was able to just film something separate to really keep people on their toes about what's actually happening. Mm-hmm. So we mentioned before that this movie is packed with characters, new and old, mostly old, new to the MCU.
Yeah.
But there was one cameo that was rumored a long time ago, dispelled, and then no one ever talked about it because, again, we were also focused on will Toby and Andrew be in this one? During Peter's struggles, his legal struggles, we see him talking to a lawyer.
First thing we see is a cane flipping out. And at that point, I said, I know who this is.
And it took my brain a couple extra seconds to process what I was about to see. And then we see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock on screen in a Spider-Man movie.
Let me say this again, because I had to say it at least 4 times in the theater after the movie was over. So let me say it again for you guys at home, maybe who it's not like clicking yet. Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, was in this MCU Spider-Man movie. Confirmed. This is canon now.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
See, that's the one to me, even after, that's the one that I'm like, I cannot believe, excuse me.
It's okay, no.
I cannot believe that we got Matt Murdock. We were discussing it before.
Right.
Because you were like, oh, what if, blah, blah. A lot of people had that kind of assumption or theory.
Yeah.
But what I said was like, at most, we're going to see them walk by the placard that says,
right.
Abogados or whatever.
Yeah. Nelson and Murdoch.
Yes. Or we're going to get Foggy. I thought Foggy was going to be like the perfect, you'll get it if you saw it, but he's not Daredevil in it.
Right.
They're not going to make that commitment, but they'll put Foggy in it. No, they went full send.
So if you are familiar with our channel and you watched our last stream or our last video, we talked about the big Kingpin reveal in Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. And I said it was very interesting that a week before Spider-Man No Way Home came out and only several days before that episode of Hawkeye came out, I said it was very odd timing that Kevin Feige would just come out and say, oh yeah, of course Charlie Cox is going to be our Daredevil, but we're not really sure where we're going to see him.
He never says anything that fully like, right. Oh yeah, Charlie Cox is going to be in it, in something.
Because if you ever watch a Kevin Feige interview, he is like fucking Neo in the Matrix with dodging all these like, these like spoilery questions. So I knew like that was like a hint, and I was like, that's very interesting timing that you'd say that. So I was like, I figured what I thought was that we were going to see Matt Murdock because they had said he wasn't going to be in No Way Home. I was for sure, because we just got Kingpin, I was for sure that we were going to see him in Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. So when we saw him in this, you heard gasps around.
Yeah.
I was definitely one of them.
Yeah. Because I was hitting you. Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
And that's when you saw the cane. It took me to see his face to be like, to fully process what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Because I think you're hitting me caught me by surprise.
My bad.
So I was so excited. But when I saw him, I just went,
I know, I had to hold on to him because I didn't want him to like scream and shout.
I think of all the cameos, that's the one that I'm still the most hyped about because, I mean, I knew all the villains were going to be there. And
yeah, that implication's already there. That implication that there are different universes is there with the confirmation of the villains. Having the Netflix Daredevil in it, that is a new confirmation.
But yeah, Matt Murdock was, I think, the biggest surprise for us. And I mean, obviously it's a fucking welcome one, because a lot, especially the Daredevil series, he's so perfect in that role.
He's so perfect, and he's fine. Unrelated.
It's okay. I feel the same way about Marissa Tomei. That's
fair.
I've felt that way for decades.
20 years,
now, though, yeah. But yeah, so it was awesome to see Matt Murdock return or officially come to the MCU, because those Netflix shows were like in this weird state of like, they were made under Marvel Television in an agreement with Netflix, so like they were like MCU adjacent.
Kind of like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, like it started out...
some of the things were canon, but some of it wasn't.
It started out as canon and then was kind of retconned later. So yeah. I think when we see Hawkeye this week, we'll kind of see what's canon and what's not.
Yeah, the season finale of Hawkeye.
They could, thanks to Loki, they could just write these off as like variants. For this universe.
Or it's a different universe.
Yeah.
It's possible. So yeah, I'm very interested to see the implications of these two fucks running around in the MCU and what that means. Yeah. I'm curious with Hawkeye, because that's where we got the first, technically, Netflix
crossover,
character crossover. I'm wondering what they're going to do in this next episode, because there's only one episode left, that's going to confirm to us what's canon and what's not.
Right.
From the Netflix shows. So that'll be interesting. And also, what else is Charlie Cox going to be in? Is he going to pop up in fucking Hawkeye season finale? Like, if he's already here, I don't know. I'm just so excited, because I mean, nothing was mentioned for them down the pipeline of this years-long thing, but I guess they could always shove shit in that they don't tell us about.
With the Echo series in production, and so there's like a weird, I think it's public bargaining, but there's like a weird thing going on where it's like there's word that a new Spider-Man trilogy is confirmed, and that Tom Holland's supposed to be in it, but then Tom Holland keeps making public statements that like, I'm not sure, I think I might be done, I kind of want to take a break from acting, so like I don't know, like,
another million please.
Yeah, so I don't really know what the deal is with that. I mean, when you make $250 million opening weekend, I think that's a good reason. I think that's a good way to leverage how much your worth is.
The reception of the original Spider-Man 3 and the fact that there never even was an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Right.
I think that also kind of because you made such a good third one for the first time ever, gives you a little bit more bargaining chips.
Right. So I think at this point, I do think Tom Holland wants to take a break from acting, and I think he deserves it.
I don't blame him.
But also, like, I think at that point, yeah, if you want to bargain for an extra, if you want to pull a RDJ and bargain for an extra $20 million in addition to your back end profits, I mean, that's just, if you're gonna fall into capitalism, make it work for you, I guess. But like,
play the game well, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm just curious to hear from you, because I definitely have some. Are there any other like moments in the movie or things that happened that like that just kind of stuck out to you that you really, really enjoyed? Any other favorite moments?
We recently ranked all of our favorite all of the Spider-Man movies, our favorite to our least favorites.
Right.
And for ranking the Amazing Spider-Man movies so low because they weren't great comparatively, Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker in No Way Home was like so standout fantastic for me.
Yeah.
And just the fact that his whole like, they gave him kind of a backstory where they were like filling the gap between what we've seen and currently. And he was saying that he stopped pulling his punches. He got bitter. So he's like, out of all of them, like the most gritty Spider-Man. Canonically, don't fight me.
Right.
So I want to see, this is me dreaming big. Maybe we should make an Amazing Spider-Man 3. That's like 10 years later,
Right.
and he's fucking gritty. Not that gritty, different gritty. And he's like, I don't know. That would be because he's just so funny. He's just so good.
Right. It's interesting you say that. I know a lot of people on Twitter over the weekend were when I finally was able to get back on Twitter, we're talking about how, now is the time to make an Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Spider-Man 4 and blah, blah, blah.
I doubt they're going to do that.
So, I mean, before going to see this movie, you and I had talked about it, both on stream and in private, or off stream. It wasn't like a secret conversation. But I talked about how my, like, hope for this movie was that if these other Spider-Men were going to pop up in this movie, that this would also serve as like a nice send-off, like a proper send-off for our previous Spider-Man. And I think this movie more than delivered. And kind of like what you were, just to add to what you were saying about Andrew Garfield's. Yeah, like we just rewatched Amazing Spider-Man. We didn't watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 just because of time restraints and stuff like that. But we rewatched The Amazing Spider-Man. And I'm not going to lie, I've never been the biggest fan of that movie, and rewatching it, I still wasn't. But that said, in no way, shape, or form was Andrew Garfield or his performance the problem with those movies.
Yeah.
And this movie only reaffirmed that. Because he was so funny and so charming and just so warm, and he seemed so excited they both seem excited to just jump right into it. But Andrew Garfield in particular, and I love the backstory they gave him about just hearing that, like, I stopped pulling my punches because Spider-Man's whole thing is to help people.
Yeah.
Even if he would rather someone be arrested than killed. And just hearing how the death of Gwen Stacy really fucked with him because we never got to see how that affected them. So just hearing that was crazy. And then there was a couple moments that we can talk more about those too, that like it made me super emotional for just to kind of finally get that wrapped up. And for Andrew Garfield, just seeing him save MJ in the movie, because that was, even when we saw the trailer, I was like, that looks exactly like when it was framed the same exact way that it was when Gwen Stacy was falling. And when the trailer came out, I was always like, well, how do we know it's Tom Holland that's saving her?
Tom Holland's hand.
And thankfully that was a good assumption, because it was Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man who saved her, and just seeing him
he got emotional.
That got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved what they did, and just I also love what they did with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. I love the conversation that he and Andrew Garfield have about, like, do you have someone? And we finally get official canonical confirmation that Peter and Mary Jane did eventually make it work. As complicated as it was.
He said it was complicated.
He said it was complicated.
When has it not been?
I think it was complicated for them. And maybe it still is, because he's older, and he's still Spider-Man. He pulled on, so like, maybe it is still complicated for them. But he said they make it work, and that was always a nice feeling to hear that. What wrecked me in the theater was when Tom Holland told them that Aunt May said to him, "With great power," and hearing Toby finish comes great responsibility. Just hearing him say that line, it was like I was fucking
7 again.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I also really like the difference in just like personality between the three of them, because of course they're different people. Yeah. They just all happen to share the same name and job, but they're different people. So I like seeing that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, kind of like in his movies, was older, more calm than the other two.
Like a calm, kind of goofy. Like,
youth pastor, like they mentioned, is the perfect way to describe that Peter Parker. And I like that they carried with that, because like, not only is he like, I think the oldest actor. Yeah. Andrew Garfield looks younger than he is. Yeah. And I know that for a fact, but I think he's the oldest actor. And then he's the oldest Peter, so it would make sense. But he was also that way when he was in college
Right.
and we saw him. So I like that they stayed with that. Andrew Garfield's Peter, for being so heartbroken still, was super funny because
he's witty. Yeah.
and charming. That's what he was like in his movies. And then you
Yeah.
have
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland's tiny little baby Spider-Man, who's just like chaotic kid energy, but also going through like something horribly tragic. So,
but even with that, he's like his whole thing is like he's optimistic, but he's also very naive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was cool seeing the three of them work together. Seeing them fight together was the coolest scene I think I've ever seen in a Marvel movie ever.
Yeah.
The three of them working together, because it's something that I didn't ever think until like this year. I didn't think that would be a possibility to ever see.
Right.
So yeah, and then going to the villain side of it, because you're bringing back iconic villains like Willem Dafoe. I think, of course, like in the original Spider-Man movie, stood out as like the best villain.
Yeah, he's like the quintessential like Spider-Man villain.
He was, if you know me, you know that Willem Dafoe freaks me out because of this role. Because I saw Spider-Man, the first one, when I was a kid. Imagine seeing that as a child. Terrifying. Scared to him up till this day. And I assume he's very nice, but he scares me. So to
Willem
see
Dafoe's
him
dragging around these days.
Fuck. So to see him reprising this role, and it's like he never stopped doing it. Like, I think maybe he still pulled out that voice for parties and shit, because he dusted it off like it was nothing.
Right.
And to see him slip back and forth again between those characters, it was just a smile. Right. Or the way he said a word, and you're like,
right,
you're the bad one. You're the bad one this time.
Yeah. So, yeah, same with Willem Dafoe. Just kind of pivoting back to the Spider-Man before we go into the villains. I agree. It's like they never stepped away from the role.
Yeah.
And it made those moments, especially at the end of the movie with our other Peters. It made that all the more powerful. Mm-hmm. Just because. Yeah, I love the dynamic that they kind of created, like they were all brothers.
Yeah.
But Tobey's definitely felt big brother or even father-esque, especially when, Tom Holland has the glider in his hands and is about to make that final blow, and just that look on his face that he's giving to Tom Holland is just so like, it's so familiar, and it's like I feel like everyone has, before doing something dumb, has maybe gotten that look from someone, or at least a lot of people. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know. I really
like
love
a familial like, I know you well, and like, I know you're about to fuck up, kind of a look. Yeah, I get that.
But it was also like somewhat, like it was enough to bring him off the ledge, and it kind of reminded me of when Peter was stopping that big fucking wall thing or whatever from falling on MJ in Spider-Man 2, and they were just looking at each other.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that.
Didn't he go like, this is heavy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like they never stepped away, and it made it all the more satisfying that this was like, because I highly, highly doubt that either of them are going to come back to these roles. I think this was it.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that, honestly, I'm a little surprised that we even got Tobey Maguire back.
I agree. That was fucking 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think this upcoming May 2022 is going to be the official 20-year anniversary for Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm surprised they got all of those people back, honestly.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe is like in his 60s now.
But let's talk about the villains, though, because first off, the first thing I wrote here is how fucking cool was it to see all of the, like, I remember fucking 20 years ago, 2002, little tiny John going to the movie theater seeing Spidey-Man.
Oh, you were so cute.
And I remember seeing the sequels. I remember there was one, I think I saw the sequel. I saw Spider-Man 2 a second time in theaters because they did like this weird double feature where it was like Men in Black 2 and Spider-Man 2.
What the fuck?
Couldn't tell you why they did that. And there was a couple really cool moments they gave all the villains. I mean, obviously, action aside, although Doc Ock's fight on the bridge was bad fucking ass.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite moments from him was hearing him say, like, on the bridge, besides the "Hello, Peter," still awesome. But when he says, "Where's my machine? The power of the sun in the palm of my hand," because we rewatched most of the Spider-Man movies before seeing this, so like that was still fresh, and I was like freaking out when he said that. I was like, "That's so cool." But for him, what I really love, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on it. In Spider-Man 2, there's a very clear like redemption arc for Doc Ock throughout the movie. Like, he doesn't start off as a villain.
And he kind of doesn't end it as
He kind of doesn't end it as a villain. But in the context of this movie, he is brought in before he finishes that arc. So he's still kind of villainy.
Yeah.
But I love that even in this, they gave him that redemption arc.
Yeah.
And
because I think out of all of them, he was the only one where it really wasn't his fault.
Right.
The person that he was being overtaken by a machine.
By artificial intelligence, yeah.
Right. You could maybe make that argument kind of for Green Goblin. Kind of.
Yeah.
That was just his own psychosis kind of forcing his hand. But I think Doc Ock was like the only one who is genuinely a good person.
Right.
Just being overtaken by something else.
Right.
So to give him that in this was super meaningful.
Right.
Because it respected what the original character's intent was supposed to be.
Yeah.
It didn't ignore that. And it also made for an ally.
Yeah.
Throughout like the third act of the movie.
Yeah.
Because they just fixed it. They were like, oh, it's his fucking thing. Let's just fix it.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine. And then they did that. And then he was fine.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So no, I love that they respected where his story was and how it ended in that movie. So I love that he ends in this movie as not a villain, because
and I guess you could kind of make a similar comparison. Doc Ock, it wasn't his fault the way that he acted for the most part. Everyone else kind of, but they all had something about them to change.
Right.
To take them back to the person they were before they made that decision or created whatever. So in that, like, that's the plot of the movie is fixing them before they're
giving
sent
them
back.
a second chance.
Exactly. So I guess comparatively, it's all kind of the same premise, but I think for Doc Ock, it was like more of a clear line where he wasn't bad.
And I also like that Electro had an interesting through line where, you know, it kind of he
was wavering.
He was wavering, but also it was more of like he still remembers who he was obviously in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he's like even dumbfounded by his new body, because he was like, I didn't look like this before. I kind of like this. Why the hell would I want to go back? Like, he's one of the people that actually wants to stay.
And the power was better, I guess. The power was tastier in the MCU.
I think it's just a new type of energy. Yeah, there's like, I mean, you can only imagine all the different types of tech that exist in the MCU.
And Eric Voss pointed this out. They never really explained why he had a flesh body this time around. It wasn't just blue energy in the shape of a Jamie Foxx. But I don't care. I don't care that they didn't explain that. I just didn't want to look at that blue man any more than I had to.
I assume it was for the same reason that that the lizard. I mean, again, none of these are like official reasons, but this is the impression that the movie gave me. Lizard stayed the lizard. He never turned back into Dr. Connors. And Sandman was just always sand until he was cured in this. So I think, and again, this is John Perez headcanon. This just kind of, I got this implication from the movie, but it was never like explicitly said. Was that because they were in a new universe that wasn't their own? That's why.
That fucked with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's a good enough explanation.
Because all of those characters are the only characters whose physiology was changed.
Yeah.
Due to something. So, you know, Goblin had something up here. Osborn had something up here. And really, so did Doc Ock. He had the metal arms, which even those conform to the technology of the
That
MCU
was so
proper.
fucking cool. Another way that those trailers really bamboozled us, because I thought he was taking over that nanotech and not giving it back. But really, Peter was like, oh, let me just Bluetooth connect my shit real quick.
That was fucking hilarious.
And take over.
Yeah.
And then Doc Ock was like, what's Bluetooth?
Yeah.
I'm sure they had Bluetooth back then.
They did, but yeah, so that was really cool. A couple interesting, just before we get into get back to our favorite villain in the movie. Okay. Interesting to know that it's MCU canon that Ozcorp does not exist. Now, that doesn't necessarily say that the Osborns don't exist.
Oscorp doesn't exist yet in the MCU.
Ozcorp does not exist in the MCU. And also, there's an implication that, I mean, we know that none of the other Avengers existed in those other franchises because they have a whole bit. It's fucking hilarious.
It's good.
Is that a band? Are you in a band? But Doc Ock did say, he mentioned something about like a toy chest in a bachelor's junk drawer or something like that. And I'm like, is there a Tony Stark?
When does he say that?
He says it when they're trying to like create that new inhibitor chip.
And they weren't talking about Doctor Strange's just basement?
No. Well, they were in Happy's apartment at the time.
Oh, were they talking about Happy?
They might have been. But I'm just saying this was a thought that popped up in my head while we were watching it.
I guess, there's nothing to say that there aren't those people, just not known as the Avengers.
Yeah. And I mean it doesn't really matter now, but I'm just saying, like, it was just a little fun thing.
It's interesting to think about.
But yeah, so great performances from all of our past villains. Really funny moments with all of them too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just Willem Dafoe. He understood the assignment. He's been waiting for this day.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they all had a good time coming back.
I agree.
But
I assume it was because I know that Tom Holland spoke about how different it was for
Alfred
Molina to be Doc Ock without real arms attached to his back, because they did it
they had
practically
puppets.
in the original one. So I assume for all of them it was probably, well, maybe not Jamie Foxx, but for like all of them it was probably very interesting filming those same characters when the technology level has, I mean, think about the technology we've had in the past 20 years.
Right.
It's insane how far everything has come. So I'm interested to hear. I would love for them to just like do an interview with just the villains.
I think they did, but we stood away. I mean, this was before the movie came out.
Right.
So
I didn't want to watch
I'm interesting. I am interesting sometimes. I'm interested in watching now interviews now that the movie is out and people,
like behind
more
the
people have
scenes
seen
stuff.
it.
Do you think there's going to be an assembled?
I don't know, because it's technically a Columbia Pictures Sony thing.
Yeah, true.
So if there is, I mean, there's probably going to be behind the scenes on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But
I want to see that.
Yeah, me too. I know there's a couple funny. I can't remember where we saw it or read it, but I remember a funny story where Tom Holland says that there would be times where he's talking to Alfred Molina, and then he would just start flying away,
craned away, because he was on like a big crane the whole time.
Which is really funny.
Two British boys talking about shit.
But Willem Dafoe, the first thing obviously you have to notice is just how quickly he slipped back into the voice, and just the mannerisms, and it was cool.
The smile,
because that just chilling smile. I'm assuming they used at least a little bit of the de-aging technology that Marvel uses on some of these guys. But I mean, this is kind of a popular headline that's going around now because it's true. And Willem Dafoe, one of the big things that he was like, if I'm coming back, I want to do all the action I can. So a lot of that fighting, a lot of that stunt work, that's him doing that.
Damn.
Which
Willie D.
I mean, he seems Willie D. He's like an actor. So like, I'm like, that's not surprising, but it's also, it's really cool. Cause I mean, he's like in his mid 60s. Like, but I just love the scene. There's a really cool shot, and I was going to mention this a little later and we can come back to it, but there's this really cool shot where Tom Holland, is, his spider senses like going off, and he's like walking around Happy's apartment, and it's like this cool like one shot of just him.
Yeah.
It's a very Sam Raimi Evil Dead type of shot, but just that scene leading into the banter with the Goblin, and then their fight, it is like so chilling and just becomes so brutal. Like seeing, I don't know, Willem Dafoe he just blew it out of the fucking water. And it just reminded you, like, even so, controversially, on my tier list for the Spider-Man ranking, I had the original Spider-Man for me. I think at the middle of the road, not because I think it's a bad movie by any means. I still really, really love that movie. But overall, structurally, I just think it's kind of a movie with a series of things happening. Still really love it. But yeah, just it's so interesting seeing him revisit the role and like getting to do more. Yeah, it reminded you why he was such a great villain in the first place. And how interesting of a problem he posed for our young Peter Parker. So, along with all of that, one story beat that I was not expecting, I think any of us were expecting, was the death of Aunt May.
So here's the thing. I figured somebody was going to die. So going in, I thought Happy was going to die.
Right.
Which would be, of course, horrible. But just with Robert Downey Jr. stepping away for a little bit, probably forever.
Yeah.
I figured because Jon Favreau has been there as long as Robert Downey Jr., probably the other longest person that's been in the MCU. I guess technically Pepper.
She's not there anymore.
Well,
I don't think they're bringing her back.
I mean, maybe. We don't know.
I'd be surprised if they brought her back.
You don't think she'd be in like Ironheart? Anyway, but Jon Favreau has been there as long as Robert Downey Jr. has been. Jon Favreau has been in Marvel shit for longer than Robert Downey Jr.
Right,
has.
yeah.
So I figured it would make sense for him to step away from his role, and to have like Happy be the hero.
Right.
And that could still happen somewhere along the way. But as we were getting more and more into the movie, I was like, Happy's not in this one very much. If he was the one that was going to die, they would be putting him
in a bigger role.
So the emotional impact would be higher.
Right.
And then I was thinking, and I was like, fuck. You know who has been in this one quite a bit? Aunt May.
Yeah. And they kind of bamboozled us even then. They
bamboozled me.
Because, so in the scene in which this happens, she gets hit with the goblin's glider, and then he attempts to throw a pumpkin bomb. Mm-hmm. Fucks Peter up because he just barely manages to get it out of her way. But the fucking face he made when he threw it too. He's like, little asshole.
Yeah, he was an asshole. But
she gets up. She walks over to Peter.
We see a shot of her breathing first, and I was like, oh, okay, she's breathing. And then she gets up, and I was like, oh, okay, she wouldn't have gotten up if she wasn't fine. So she gets up, and they have a whole conversation.
She delivers the iconic, with great power, there must also come great responsibility, which is, fun fact, the original line in the comic. Mm-hmm. They shortened it for the movie.
I think I remember hearing that they did that. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, I think that's the original one.
Yeah. When I was happy I caught that one in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm. And then she collapses.
Yeah.
And that's when Peter's like, oh shit, you got bad stabbed in a bad place, lots of blood. And Aunt May was like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Or something. She says something like that because she doesn't know what's happening. She's just saying that she wants to catch her breath. Fuck. It's so sad.
I
know. And I think that was like an extra fuck. Because like if she had known she was dying, that would have been one thing.
Right.
But she didn't know.
Right.
So it was 10 times worse.
Right.
And then you have the fucking Department of Damage Control, the SWAT team or whatever the fuck.
Just shooting up a storm.
Shoot it. Like they did not know Aunt May was dead at that point. And they just start shooting at Peter. They hit Peter multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was even talking about that afterwards, like on Twitter and shit. That's insane. And just the fact that they were coming in guns blazing instead of with any kind of medical team is, I think, perfect for the state of the United States police force.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like if Aunt May had a little bit more urgency and maybe like a medical team, she would have been fine. but she was not fine. She did die.
Yeah.
Fuck. That
Yeah.
was sad.
Yeah, that one was rough. Just because I sure as shit wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I just love the way they utilized her character, and they showed a little bit in Far From Home, but they cut a big scene out from that, in which shows her working at Feast, which is like the nonprofit she works at that like helps.
And they definitely did more of that this movie. Having Willem Dafoe, having Norman Osborn walk into Feast, and she's working and she's there to help people.
Right.
It makes it all make sense why she's encouraging Peter to give them a second chance, because like, oh yeah, we didn't forget you work for the Second Chance company, kind of.
Right.
I was gonna say something else. Oh, I also think something that made her death more impactful was just, I mean, he said it in like a shitty way. The damage control interrogator, when they first, like in the beginning of the movie, he said like, basically for all intents and purposes, you're Peter's mother.
Right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess in my head I'm like, that's his aunt, that's his guardian, but I never really thought mother. But it makes sense because she's one taking care of him in like a mother role. So I think just also using that word was very purposeful to make it feel 10 times worse when she died.
Because they are truly all each other had. We've yet to explore. I know we've yet to explore what Peter's like family, and maybe there's not a lot of them, and that's why. Yeah, and I kind of like that they gave her the Uncle Ben moment. Only because the MCU had very obviously wanted to go away from that like narrative, just because one, how many times can you see that motherfucker die on screen? But also two, like we rewatched Homecoming directly before we went to see this movie, and I think they intentionally were like all the stuff that happened with Aunt May, as like, okay, so the stuff with Uncle Ben probably happened before Peter may have been in the picture like on a long-term basis or something like that. So either which way, I love that they gave her the moment though to say the line, and also to just be that kind of driving force for Peter in the movie. Yeah. So, I mean, it was sad as fuck. Still healing from that, but it was just an unexpected moment. Rewatching the Spider-Man movies before going to see this movie makes for such a rewarding experience.
Yeah, it was definitely the smart move to make.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about like the when Doc Ock says the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. He says it twice in the movie, and the second time is cool because it wasn't with all that like malice.
It was about the Stark arc reactor.
Yeah, so the Stark reactor. No one thought to say that.
Also, oh my God, if Doc Ock had the opportunity to stay in the MCU 2024, whatever the fuck, MCU, that motherfucker would have had a field day with that technology.
Oh, yeah.
The new Tony Stark. Doc Ock.
So that was cool, but also a couple of little lesser Easter eggs that we actually noticed in the movie was when Peter is changing out of his Spider-Man costume, he throws on a shirt. And the shirt is his I Survived My Trip to NYC shirt that we saw in Homecoming when he first lost the suit.
Yeah, it's pretty much a makeshift dunce cap that Tony Stark gave Peter Parker.
And then we saw when Peter landed in the middle of the street, we saw the Delmar's bodega. It said Delmar's 3. That was the bodega Peter went to in Homecoming that was also destroyed in Homecoming. So love to see that they're back and they're thriving.
Yeah, it makes me think what happened to Delmar's 2.
I think that was Delmar's 2. So what happened to Delmar's 1? I don't know. Also, I love that they included the line from Norman Osborn. I'm something of a scientist myself.
Yeah, I like that he was like, oh, it's just something I said someone a long time ago.
While Peter's trying to go into school and there's protesters outside, we hear the audio for do a flip.
Oh God,
that's
so
also
good.
From Homecoming.
One of the best parts of Homecoming, honestly.
Yeah. Goblin also reprised the line. I said, "Can Spider-Man come out to play?" We mentioned a couple of the Sam Raimi shots. Yeah, so just all these like little nuances and little things. I think for me, one of my favorite things was the way the score incorporated a lot of the Danny Elfman score. A lot in important moments. Because that music, I mean, not dissonant. I don't really remember a lot of the score from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. They didn't have the same composer for both movies. They actually had Hans Zimmer for the second one, which is a little surprising. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so
they used Danny Elfman he did the music for the first two Spider-Mans.
Right.
And then they used his music for the third Spider-Man.
Exactly. So the way they just incorporated his score was special for me, just because I love
pay
those.
attention to shit like that.
Yeah. Just had a conversation with my brother, and at first he was like, I didn't even fucking notice that. I'm not. He goes, I don't really give a shit about music. And I was like, here's the thing, you do. I was like, you may not know that you do, but you do. It's like, can you imagine the Darth Maul fight without Duel of the Fates? He goes, oh yeah, it's like the best part. I'm like, exactly. So you care about music,
even if you're not like consciously listening to the music, you're experiencing it.
Shout outs to my brother. This kind of conversations we have. But yeah, and then they also weaved in the music from The Amazing Spider-Man and from Doctor Strange, which was really cool. But it was just, I don't know, something about hearing that Danny Elfman score again was really, really special. So let's talk a little bit about these post-credit scenes before we give our final thoughts. We had two pretty big post-credit scenes. So earlier in the summer, well, one's definitely bigger than the other. So I was reading something, and it kind of phrased it the most perfect way. They said that they phrased the first post-credit scene as a punchline because the setup actually happened over the summer with a little movie that also made record-breaking numbers by the name of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So Venom 2 had this buck wild post-credit scene where it's revealed that the symbiote, it goes across the multiverse and they have a hive mind. And at that moment, there's this big glow and shift in reality. And all of a sudden, they're watching the Daily Bugle reveal of Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So the first post-credit scene we get in this is Venom following up with the bartender in Mexico, because he was in Mexico at this point. And he's piss-ass drunk, asking questions about the Avengers and the events of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And is like, hey, maybe we should go to New York and like find this out before they get sent back to their own reality. Except for a little drop of symbiote, the Venom symbiote specifically.
Ruh-roh.
So this is clearly, Sony and Marvel's way of being like, okay, we're gonna leave a few of our toys here just in case.
Just in case maybe we want to explore this in the future, we're just gonna leave this here.
Right, exactly. So I mean, part of me is bummed because like it would have been very fun to see Tom Holland and Tom Hardy go at it. And I guess there's no reason why they couldn't.
In a future, maybe Sony project.
Yeah.
Like Venom 3.
Yeah. But, I mean, multiversal logic says, maybe there's an Eddie Brock in the MCU. But also, in the comics, the symbiote goes to Spider-Man first before it goes to anyone else. So that'll be interesting if there is, the first of this new Spider-Man trilogy. Maybe he interacts with the symbiote there. I mean, and we know that the bad guy in Thor: Love and Thunder has one of his nicknames is King of the Symbiote. So who knows how that'll play into it. But either which way, it's very exciting to think that in the MCU, the symbiote is there, and the symbiote knows who Peter Parker is.
Yeah.
So, or at least knows who Spider-Man is.
I would love to see a Venom in Spider-Man done well, thought out with like less distractions.
Yeah. Now, a big dream of mine, which I mentioned this when the first Venom came out.
Have Topher Grace come back.
No. That'd be fucking
Topher
funny.
Grace.
He's just like, do you remember what you did to me?
We had theoretically, Topher Grace was running around. in the MCU for a hot second.
We can't go down that rabbit hole.
He was in church praying to have all the Peter Parkers murdered.
He was in church and was like, "You really fucked me on this one. I asked for the one to be killed, and now there's 3.
Please kill them all, God." I hate that man.
I fucking hate. Yeah.
Okay.
No. I was gonna say. I always thought it would have been cool if maybe they used Venom as a way to reboot the Amazing Spider-Man and bring Andrew Garfield back in that. I doubt. Again, I don't think he's coming back for another one. But
I don't think so either.
But I mean, it'll be interesting to see if maybe there is a Tom Holland Spider-Man in that universe, and maybe that's how they can
Connect them.
get around that.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know. We'll see. But I like the idea of there being a potential Venom storyline for Peter in the MCU, and also there's a theory floating around that maybe if they continue with this particular cast and story set up with this trilogy, the Spider-Man trilogy, that maybe the symbiote goes to Flash Thompson, because he does become Agent Venom in the comics, so that would be an interesting storyline for them to pursue as well. That way they don't have to use Eddie Brock, but they can still use a little bit,
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on to I don't know, did you have any other thoughts on that particular? You didn't watch Venom, so
I have never seen it either. Venom.
Yeah.
Now I need to. See, this is Marvel's classic shit.
Yeah.
Making me go back. Imagine, I mean, we don't have to imagine. We have friends who have never seen any of the prior Spider-Man movies, or, well, like, before Tom Holland, or
Right.
saw, like, maybe the first 2 Tobey Maguire ones and then never revisited them. Now all those people have to go back
right.
and rewatch every goddamn Spider-Man movie.
And
That's
now-
what Marvel's making me do with Venom.
Well, even more so, people are going back and watching
the Netflix
the
shows.
Netflix stuff. So, but yeah, so it's y'all are cheeky.
See, here's the thing. If you watch everything they do as it comes out, you won't have to go back and rewatch before. You won't have to do homework before you see the movies. That's what I was trying to get across to my father today.
Well, there was a Cowboys game on.
There was a Cowboys game on, so we didn't want to go see Spider-Man anyway.
But yeah, but for our second post-credit scene, baby, they didn't even give us a scene. They gave us a full-ass trailer
Yes.
for the return of Doctor Strange. As we know, he will be returning in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Returning.
Multiverse of Madness or the
Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange in it. Fucking Wanda's in it.
Yeah, we see Mordo coming back, and he's looking
Mordo's
dope as
back.
fuck
Looks
with his braids.
Dope. Wong will probably be in it.
I think we definitely heard Wong. I thought we saw him in there.
We heard him from the beginning of Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I think
I assume he's Sorcerer Supreme. He's gonna be in it.
Yeah. And
Will Vision be in it? I don't know.
Well, we also saw a nasty, evil-looking Doctor Strange.
We did.
So I've heard something recently though, and I'm wondering how true it is. So apparently, you know how they just got done with the reshoots, which, listen, people who like to freak out about movies, big budget movies getting reshot, it's not anything. It's not because anything's a problem. I had heard with my own 2 earballs that a lot of the reshoots were to include more characters and cameos, which is interesting. Now there was one TikTok that was just like this was complete rumor. There was nothing accompanying it in terms of like sources or anything. Even what I'm saying is not, this is just what I've seen. I don't typically report on what I think is just a straight up lie. What this TikTok showed was what I think was like fan casting. So they're like some of the rumored cameos are Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Patrick Stewart's Professor X. I'm like,
sure.
I was like, fucking Hugh Jackman is in rehearsals for goddamn Music Man right now. He is not thinking about Wolverine. He likes to eat donuts and tap dance.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever gonna.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. Anyway, now do I think it'd be cool to see a Wolverine in that
or a mutant at all?
Yeah. I think that's possible.
Possibly.
But yeah, especially with the exception of Deadpool, I don't really have any desire to see any of like the
originals.
Well, I mean, it depends on who it is. Like, would I love to see Halle Berry back as Storm one last time? Sure.
You just want to see Halle Berry.
Yeah, of course. But also, let me fucking finish. I was gonna say James Marsden as Cyclops. Yeah. What?
I don't like Cyclops.
Why?
I think he's just like a possessive asshole.
Oh, well, in those movies
And
he
his
was.
power sucks.
No.
He's just
He
got,
was like my favorite X-Men growing up.
got
Shut
like
up.
a laser eye that's out of control. I don't like
Anyway.
him. I like James Marsden though. Excited for Sonic 2.
But yeah, but one of the most important things we saw, like you mentioned, was fucking seeing Wanda.
Well, we knew that she was in it, but everyone was speculating that she was going to be the big bad villain of it. So when he came to her asking for help,
Right.
in her very tranquil, almost too tranquil little garden that she had going on,
Little abode.
her abode, which was different than the abode we saw before. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if she's doing a whole like starting as an ally or being approached as an ally and then realizing that his plan is counterintuitive to her own and then going against him. I don't know. I mean, her being the villain was only speculation. I still don't know in what capacity she's going to be in it.
Right.
But yeah, but we did get to see her, which is the first time we've seen her since WandaVision. So
Well, we saw her in normal clothing and as the Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
So one thing I'm curious about, when Doctor Strange approaches her in this trailer and they're chatting, one thought I had was, is he talking to her or is he talking to her fucking projection? Because clearly she's able to do both. In the WandaVision post-credit scene, we saw her. I mean, I know it was her physical body that was like making tea and blah, blah, blah. And her astral form was whatever.
But her astral projected form was very clearly not a physical being.
Right. But who
also,
knows? Her powers are fucking crazy.
But I also don't put it against Marvel to make her appear a certain way.
Right. And if she is in her own little like pocket reality again.
That was another thing that people were saying because she was in a different place than we saw her at the end of WandaVision. So some people were speculating that this very organized orchard that she was in was possibly another pocket reality.
Right.
I feel like she would have learned her lesson from the first time.
Well, she even brings it up. She's like, listen, I did this thing and people were, and he's like, I'm not here about Westview.
That's another thing that I thought was interesting because Doctor Strange was supposed to have a cameo in WandaVision.
Yeah.
So I would have expected him to indeed want to talk about that, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I mean, maybe it just wasn't the time, but it was interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, again, they could also be subverting expectations again.
Yeah.
Maybe he was looking for her at one point, but then all this shit with Spider-Man happened and he's like, I mean, who knows? I heard a rumor months ago that Tom Hiddleston was supposed to be in the new Doctor Strange movie. Mm-hmm. Now, if he pops up, that's interesting because then there's a strong possibility we might see a Kang variant.
Right.
Because again, it's like who knows?
Kang.
Yeah, it's just a crazy idea to think about right now.
Yeah.
Because I originally thought that little dimension where we saw Dark Doctor Strange, who I don't think is the same Strange Supreme from What If, but
also I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I am not sure because that's who I initially thought, but I'm like, he was very clearly already in one place that he wasn't allowed to leave with the little tiny Killmonger and Ultron. So like, I don't think that's him. But I'm ready to be proven wrong. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing like if what she did with Westview is going to be confirmed because we know that it was a hex. That's all we know from WandaVision. But if this movie confirms that, hey, you actually tapped into you created your own universe, like pocket universe here. What maybe you know about navigating through different universes throughout the multiverse. And I mean, if she's able to hear her kids and know that they're out there,
and she's reading that dark magic book.
So maybe he's thinking maybe I can get ahead of this and like use her for good.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
not coming for Westview, but he's coming because of the Darkhold.
Yeah. So yeah, it's too soon to say. We didn't really see much of her. I mean, there's that one point where we see her reading again as the Scarlet Witch. She's in her Scarlet Witch gear. So like, it's not. it's not impossible that she's a little bit more of an antagonistic role in this. But we just, I mean, obviously we just don't know, but
it's too early to tell.
All I know is I am super pumped for this movie. We were talking about it earlier in the stream. Well, in this video, the first Doctor Strange movie is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited to see it because the visuals in this trailer were insane. I'm so excited to see the final product. And also it's Sam Raimi. So
yeah,
I can only imagine what the horror elements are going to look like in this.
Yeah, it might scare me.
Yeah. So
Spider-Man 2 is a horror movie.
Oh, the Doc Ock
Spider-Man
scene.
1 is a horror film.
Yeah. So this movie left, just kind of getting back to our, that's kind of our theory section on this. But just kind of getting to our final thoughts in the movie. What I mentioned at the top of this video, what I really, really loved about this movie, other than it also giving a proper send-off, a beautiful send-off for our past Spider-Man, is that this movie kind of acted as a new origin story for this iteration of Peter Parker. And it really kind of forced him to mature, become independent, and kind of start his life as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And what I really appreciate is that I never found this to be a complaint, but I know some people kind of felt it. Some Spider-Man fans kind of felt this a certain way about this, but like in the MCU, it made sense that someone with Peter's abilities would kind of be dragged into the Avengers and like be sent off to deal with all these Avengers level threats. But at the end of the day, he's just a kid. Like it would make sense for him to not always want to do that. That's why I love Far From Home so much, is because it deals with him like he just lost a father figure, and also he's like, I just want to hang out with a girl I like. I don't want to have to save the world every fucking week. So I love that, you know, now that no one knows who he is, he kind of has another chance, but he still knows that he needs to help people. So I don't know. I just love the idea of him, by isolating, he kind of has to grow and he kind of has to be independent.
Yeah.
So much so that he even makes a snazzy little new suit.
He learned. Did he know how to sew beforehand?
He must have knew.
Yeah,
he must have known.
I love that.
And he's a smart guy, so I mean, he can figure it out.
Yeah.
But
so sewing is just operating a machine.
Yeah, exactly.
He's good at machines.
So yeah, I love this movie. So like I knew I was gonna like it.
Right.
But it's so fucking good.
Yeah. Also, like historically, the end of a trilogy is kind of like,
it's hard to get right.
It's hard to get right. There's a lot riding on it. So I think that made it even more enjoyable.
Right.
Because it was good. And
Right.
it was a proper send-off for all the Peter Parkers.
Yeah.
All the villains. They were all fixed. Like, I mean, how much better of an ending can they have?
Yeah.
And yet, the main hero of the movie now has nobody.
Yeah.
And is on his own. It's like everyone had a happy ending except for
Peter.
Which is
but
heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah. Which is why I'm super. I hope Tom Holland comes back to do more, because I really would love to see the continuation of this story. Even if he takes a couple years off,
right?
You know, that'd be kind of cool to see. You know, Peter in college,
Yeah.
and
I need to see him.
Yeah.
Find Ned and MJ and make them remember him. I have to see him tell MJ that he loves her.
Oh, that scene fucked me up.
Yeah.
Oh.
And something that I didn't notice while we were watching the movie, because probably I was crying or something.
Right.
But that Eric Voss mentioned was that at the end, when MJ did not know who Peter was,
Right.
she was still wearing her Black Dahlia necklace.
Yeah.
And even when he left, she was like,
Right.
I've seen this motherfucker somewhere.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope that there's a chance that they could both remember him and
Right.
have things come back and be normal and happy again.
I know. But for now, like, I would love to see, I know Sony's doing their own Kraven the Hunter movie, but, you know, if there was a possibility to either merge those movies or include make that a Marvel Studios movie so that, you know, he's in that, like, I would love to see that. I'm very, now that the Avengers or any of those folks know who Peter is, I'm excited to see, you know, what, I think now we can get those street level stories.
Right.
And I mean, now that we have fucking Matt Murdock,
Right?
they team up all the time in the comics, Daredevil and Spider-Man. So, and they have a common enemy a lot of the time. So it would be super cool to see them maybe one day team up on the big screen, or to see, you know, like a storyline with Ryan. I mean, Spider-Man has a deep well of villains.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm super excited to see where this goes. But overall, as a trilogy, I know I may be speaking early, and I'm still riding high off of seeing it. But as far as superhero trilogies go, for me, this might be the best superhero trilogy for me.
Yeah. I think I'd have to agree with you.
The only trilogy as a trilogy that I could compare it to is Captain America. Because even, y'all know me, I fucking love the Dark Knight trilogy. But the ending doesn't quite land it for me. The Dark Knight Rises doesn't quite hit the mark for me. It's kind of a weird movie. It ages weird. But this, it's just because on so many levels, on an MCU level, on a, you know, past franchises level, this movie just hits the mark, and it stays true to itself. It feels organic, doesn't feel like it's pushing anything.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think it is the best.
So I said it last time on our last video. I'm gonna say it now again. Marvel fans, we ate good this year.
We ate,
and we ate good, and we still got the Hawkeye finale coming up. Just as a nice little treat. Oh, and John Watts, I don't know that he's going to be back to direct a new Spider-Man trilogy, because that motherfucker's going to be busy with Fantastic Four.
Oh.
He's directing, and I can only assume that will become a franchise.
That makes me feel better about
so,
Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
Notoriously hard to get right, apparently.
Obviously, he is not someone who struggles with multiple characters in a movie. If he keeps his same writing crew, sign me up, baby. So that's awesome, and I'm very interested to see, you know, if they get this new trilogy, you know, rolling. I'm very interested to see who they get. In a dream world, I'd love to see Lord and Miller tackle a live action Spider-Man trilogy. Though I know they're doing the animated stuff. There was a thought out there that Bert and Bertie, who just did the last few episodes of Hawkeye, and I was like, now that's interesting. I have loved the Hawkeye series thus far, but you know what? That's years down the road. We'll let that simmer for now and just enjoy this time that we're living in. Because what a movie, what a fucking movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Doubled. Yes, what he said.
But more importantly, we want to hear what y'all thought of the movie. Are there any particular moments that really stuck out to you? Sorry, my cat just started rubbing on my leg.
He's hungry.
Yeah, what are the things you liked about the movie? Is there anything you didn't like about the movie? If you didn't like anything about the movie, something's wrong with you. No,
Why are you watching this video?
Yeah, why are you watching this fucking video? No, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your reactions. And as always, we'd love to hear your theories on what's going to come next in the MCU. So, hey, happy holidays. If you celebrate, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, all that jazz. And that's it. That's Johnny P signing out. With great power comes great responsibility.
I don't like this person.
Oh, no.
That's Johnny P signing out. Blah, blah, blah. Shut up.
All right, y'all.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I'm going to quote that.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good... We'll put that on the thumbnail for this. It was a good one.
Probably like the movie with the biggest MCU implications involved.
Since Far From Home, certainly. Remember when Far From Home came out, and that's when we found out everyone knew who Peter was, and then also we saw the fucking scroll, like...
Yeah, and J. Jonah Jameson was in it.
So...
Yeah. So,
yeah. To say that this trilogy wasn't important.
Yeah.
You'd be lying. All right, we gotta go.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. All right, see you next time.